The fork hit the plate with a sound that could have shattered glass. My 13-year-old daughter Violet flinched, her eyes darting between me and my wife Lana like she was watching a tennis match where the ball might explode. "I'm not cooking for her again, Trent," Lana said, her voice carrying that particular brand of ice that had become her specialty over the past 6 months. "She's not my responsibility." I set down my own fork carefully, the way I'd learned to handle volatile situations during my 15 years as a fire inspector. Some fires start small, but you can always smell the accelerant in the air before everything goes to hell. "Excuse me?" I kept my voice level, professional. The same tone I used when explaining to homeowners why their electrical work was an end trap waiting to happen. Lana pushed her barely touched salad around her plate, not meeting my eyes. Her dark hair fell in perfect waves around her shoulders. She'd spent 2 hours at the salon that morning, I knew, because she'd complained about the cost. Everything was about cost with Lana lately, except when it came to herself. "You heard me. Violet is your daughter from your previous marriage. I didn't sign up to be a short-order cook for a teenager who turns her nose up at everything I make anyway." Violet's face went red. She was at that awkward age where everything felt like a personal attack, but this time, it actually was one. "I never said I didn't like your food," Violet mumbled, staring at her plate of reheated pizza rolls, the extent of Lana's culinary effort for the past week. "Oh, please," Lana scoffed, finally looking up from her salad. "You pick at everything like it's poison. Maybe if you weren't so picky, I'd be more inclined to put in effort." That's when I felt it. That moment when you realize the structure you've been trying to save is too far gone. The foundation has shifted. The support beams are cracked, and all you can do is evacuate before everything comes crashing down. "Violet, go finish your homework upstairs," I said quietly. My daughter didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed her plate and disappeared, leaving Lana and me alone in the kitchen that suddenly felt like a battlefield. "Really, Lana? She's not your responsibility?" Lana finally met my eyes, and what I saw there wasn't the woman I'd married 3 years ago. That woman had laughed at my terrible jokes, had hugged Violet after her first day at a new school, had made us feel like we were building something together. This woman looked at me like I was a problem she was tired of solving. "I'm 39 years old, Trent. I didn't get married to become a stepmother to a teenager who barely acknowledges my existence." "She's 13. She's supposed to be difficult. That's what kids do." "Well, I'm done pretending to be something I'm not." Lana stood up, smoothing down her designer workout clothes, another recent purchase that had made our credit card statement look like a small country's GDP. "I have my dance classes to focus on. I'm building something for myself, and I can't do that while playing house with someone else's kid." There it was. Someone else's kid. Not our family, not the life we'd built together. Someone else's kid, like Violet was a stray I'd brought home without permission. "Fine," I said, standing up slowly. "If Violet isn't your responsibility, then I guess your credit cards aren't mine either." Lana's perfectly sculpted eyebrows drew together. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means exactly what it sounds like. You want to talk about responsibilities? Let's talk about them. The mortgage on this house that you live in? My responsibility. The car payment on your BMW? My responsibility. The credit cards you use for your shopping trips and salon visits? My responsibility. But apparently, making sure my daughter has a decent meal isn't yours." "Trent, you're being ridiculous. That's not the same thing at all." "Isn't it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you want all the benefits of being part of this family without any of the actual family part." Lana's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, and for just a second, her expression softened into something that looked almost like happiness. Then she caught me watching, and her face went blank again. "I'm going to teach my evening class," she said, grabbing her phone and her designer gym bag. "We can discuss this when you've calmed down." "Sure we can," I said to her retreating form. "We'll discuss a lot of things." After she left, I sat alone in our kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of another failed family dinner. Upstairs, I could hear Violet's music playing, some pop song about being stronger than you think you are. Smart kid. She was already learning. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app. 3 clicks later, I was staring at our joint credit card accounts. Another 3 clicks, and I was looking at the spending patterns from the past 6 months. Lana's purchases told a story I'd been too stupid or too hopeful to read. Expensive clothes, salon visits, dinners at restaurants I'd never been to, gas purchases on the other side of town where she had no business being. The most recent charge was from 2 hours ago. $73 at some upscale cafe downtown. The same time she'd told me she was grocery shopping for the week. The groceries that never materialized, which was why we were eating pizza rolls and reheated salad for dinner. I closed the app and sat back in my chair. In my line of work, you learn to recognize the signs of trouble long before the flames become visible. The smell of gas where there shouldn't be any. Electrical outlets that are warm to the touch. Smoke detectors that have mysteriously stopped working. My marriage was showing all the signs, and I'd been ignoring them because I wanted to believe we could fix it. But some fires can't be put out. Sometimes the only thing you can do is control the burn. Upstairs, Violet's music changed to something softer, sadder. My daughter, my responsibility, my choice, my priority, was probably lying on her bed wondering why her stepmother hated her so much, wondering what she'd done wrong, wondering if this was just how families worked. I picked up Lana's iPad from the counter where she'd left it in her hurry to get to her class. We shared an Apple ID, something she'd insisted on when we got married because it was more convenient for families. Convenient, indeed. The screen lit up with a text notification, then another, then 3 more in rapid succession. My finger hovered over the screen. This was it. The moment where I either chose to keep living in denial or face whatever truth was waiting for me. In my job, I'd seen what happened when people ignored the warning signs. The damage was always worse when you waited. I swiped the screen open. The messages were from someone named Derek. The preview text made my stomach drop through the floor. Can't wait to see you tonight. This sneaking around is killing me, but your husband... I didn't need to read the rest. I already knew how that sentence ended. But I read it anyway. I read all of them. Every sweet nothing, every complaint about me, every plan they'd made behind my back. Every time she'd told him that Violet was a burden and that she never wanted to be a stepmom anyway. Every time she'd said she was ready for a fresh start without all the baggage. The baggage. That's what my daughter was to the woman I'd married. Baggage. I set the iPad down carefully and walked upstairs. Violet's door was closed, but I could hear her talking to someone on the phone, probably her best friend Emma, the only person who seemed to understand how hard it was to be 13 in a world that expected you to be grateful for scraps of affection. I knocked softly. "Hey, kiddo, can I come in?" "Yeah, Dad." I found her curled up on her bed with her phone still in her school clothes. She looked so much like her mother, my first wife, Sarah, who died in a car accident when Violet was 8. Sarah would have known what to do in this situation. Sarah would have never let anyone make our daughter feel unwanted in her own home. "Everything okay?" Violet asked, though we both knew it wasn't. "It will be," I said, sitting on the edge of her bed. "I want you to know something, Vi. You are not a burden. You are not baggage. You are my daughter, and you will always be my first priority. Always." Her eyes filled with tears. "I know she doesn't like me, Dad. I've tried to be nice to her, but nothing I do is good enough." "That's not your fault. That's not about you at all. Sometimes adults make bad choices and kids get caught in the middle, but you don't have to worry about that anymore." "What do you mean?" I smoothed her hair back from her face, the same gesture I'd been making since she was a toddler. "I mean, things are going to change around here, and they're going to change tonight." After I left Violet's room, I went to my office and opened my laptop. It took me exactly 17 minutes to remove Lana from all our joint accounts. Credit cards, checking account, savings account, everything. I left her access to her own checking account, the one where she deposited her part-time income from the dance studio. She'd have enough money for gas and groceries for exactly 1 week if she was careful. Then I called my lawyer. Jim, it's Trent Calloway. I need to file for divorce, and I need to do it fast. Jesus, Trent. What happened? I'll email you the screenshots in 5 minutes. How quickly can you draw up papers? If it's what I think it is, I can have them ready by tomorrow afternoon. You sure about this? I looked around my office, at the pictures of Violet on my desk, at the family photo from last Christmas where Lana was already looking at her phone instead of the camera. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. By the time Lana came home from her dance class at 11:30 that night, I had everything ready. The divorce papers were printed and waiting on the kitchen counter. Her belongings were packed in suitcases by the front door. The locks would be changed first thing in the morning. She walked in looking flushed and happy, her hair slightly messed despite her attempts to fix it in the car. She was glowing in a way she hadn't glowed for me in months. Trent? What's all this? She was staring at the suitcases, her face pale. Your things. I figured since Violet isn't your responsibility, you wouldn't want to stick around. What are you talking about? You can't just… Actually, I can. Check your credit cards, check your bank access, check your key fob for your car. I had it deactivated an hour ago. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers shaking as she tried to log into her banking app. I watched her face change as reality hit her like a freight train. You can't do this? This is my home too. No, Lana. This is my home. The home I bought before I met you. The home where my daughter lives. The home where you've made it very clear you don't want to be. She looked around wildly, like she was searching for something that would make this make sense. This is about dinner? About one stupid comment about cooking? No, this is about Derek. The color drained from her face completely. I don't know what you're talking about. I picked up her iPad and read from the screen. Can't wait to start fresh with you, baby. No more pretending to care about his bratty kid. We'll have our own life, just us. I looked up at her. Sound familiar? Lana's mouth opened and closed, like a fish out of water. Trent, I can explain. I'm sure you can. You can explain it to your lawyer. Mine will be in touch. That's when the begging started. The tears, the promises, the sudden transformation into the loving stepmother she'd never been. She ran upstairs and knocked on Violet's door, trying to apologize, trying to explain, trying to undo months of coldness with a few desperate words. Violet didn't open the door. Please, Trent, Lana sobbed, following me around the kitchen as I calmly made myself a sandwich. I made a mistake. I was confused. I love you. I love Violet. No, you don't. And that's fine. Not everyone is cut out for this. But you don't get to stay here and make my daughter feel like she's not wanted. You don't get to use my money to fund your affair. And you sure as hell don't get to come back here and pretend this is all some big misunderstanding. Where am I supposed to go? I took a bite of my sandwich and considered the question. I hear Derek has a nice place. Might want to call him. Oh, wait, you can't. Your phone's about to get shut off too. The look of pure panic on her face was almost enough to make me feel sorry for her. Almost. The landline still works, I said helpfully. You've got about 5 minutes before I call the police to have you removed for trespassing. She made the call. I listened to her side of the conversation with grim satisfaction. Derek, it's me. I need… What do you mean you can't? But you said… Derek? Derek! The sound of the dial tone echoed through our kitchen. Lana stared at the phone like it had personally betrayed her, which in a way it had. Looks like Derek isn't as committed to that fresh start as he claimed, I observed. Funny how that works. She tried calling her friends, her sister, her parents. One by one, I watched her realize that having an affair and abandoning your family doesn't make you particularly popular with people who might have helped you. Finally, she called a hotel. I'll fight this, she said as she gathered her suitcases. I'll get half of everything. I'll get alimony, You'll get exactly what you deserve, I said, which, based on those text messages and your complete abandonment of your parental responsibilities, is going to be a lot less than you think. After she left, I sat in my kitchen and finished my sandwich in blessed silence. Upstairs, Violet's music had stopped. The house felt different already, cleaner somehow, like we'd finally gotten rid of something that had been poisoning the air. My phone buzzed with a text from Jim, my lawyer. Got the screenshots. This is going to be easier than I thought. She's got no grounds for anything. Full custody shouldn't be a problem. I typed back, good. How long until it's final? If she doesn't contest it? 60 days. If she does contest it, we've got enough evidence to make her wish she hadn't. I smiled for the first time in months. Tomorrow I'd take Violet out for breakfast. Somewhere nice where they made real food and didn't act like feeding a 13-year-old was an imposition. We'd talk about her school, her friends, her plans for the summer. We'd remember what it felt like to be a family again. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was from an unknown number. This isn't over. I typed back. Yes, it is. Don't contact me or my daughter again. Then I blocked the number and went upstairs to check on Violet. She was asleep, finally looking peaceful for the first time in months. I pulled her blanket up and turned off her light. In the hallway, I paused at the family photo we'd taken last Christmas. Lana was in it, smiling her fake smile, already planning her exit strategy. I took it down and dropped it in the trash can. Tomorrow, I'd take a new picture. Just me and Violet. Just family. Just the way it should be. I woke up at 5:30, same as always. 15 years of fire department life had programmed my internal clock to military precision, and even though I'd moved to the inspector's office 3 years ago, the habit stuck. Today, though, I felt different. Lighter. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and could finally exhale. The house was quiet. No Lana clattering around in the bathroom using every product in her extensive collection. No passive-aggressive sighs from the kitchen about having to make coffee for herself. Just silence. And for the first time in a long time, silence felt like peace instead of tension. I made coffee, real coffee, not the expensive organic stuff Lana insisted on, and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. 3 emails from Jim, my lawyer, each one better than the last. Trent, got everything filed. She's been served at the hotel. Also, ran a preliminary asset check. You're in good shape. Call me when you get a chance. Jim. The second email had attachments. Here's what we filed. Also thought you should see this. Derek Hunt, her boyfriend, is married. Wife filed for divorce 6 months ago, citing adultery. Looks like your Lana wasn't his first rodeo. The third email made me laugh out loud. Lana's lawyer called. She wants to negotiate. I told him we'd consider it if she wants to pay you alimony for emotional distress. He hung up. I was still grinning when Violet came downstairs at 7, already dressed for school. She looked around the kitchen like she was expecting an ambush. Is she gone? She asked quietly. She's gone, kiddo, for good. Violet's shoulders relaxed for the first time in months. Really? Really. How do you feel about pancakes for breakfast? Her face lit up. The kind with chocolate chips? Is there any other kind worth making? While I cooked, Violet sat at the counter and actually talked to me. Really talked, not the careful, guarded conversations we'd been having when Lana was around. She told me about her friends, about a boy in her math class who kept trying to cheat off her tests, about the spring dance that was coming up at school. I didn't think I wanted to go, she said, pouring way too much syrup on her pancakes. But maybe now? Now what? Now maybe you could help me pick out a dress, without someone rolling their eyes and complaining about how much everything costs? I felt that familiar stab of anger at Lana, followed immediately by relief that Violet would never have to deal with that again. I would love to help you pick out a dress. We'll make a whole day of it. Lunch, shopping, maybe even get your nails done if you want. Really? You'd do that? Vi, I'd do anything for you. I thought you knew that. She smiled, really smiled, not the careful half smile she'd been giving me for months. I know, Dad. It's been hard to remember sometimes. After I dropped Violet at school, I drove to work with the radio turned up loud, singing along to songs I hadn't heard in years. The fire station was buzzing with its usual morning energy, guys checking equipment, reviewing the night's calls, giving each other grief about everything and nothing. Well, said Mitch Rodriguez, my former partner and current best friend. Look who's looking human again. You get some sleep last night? Something like that. I poured myself another cup of coffee and settled into my desk chair. Actually, I got divorced last night. Mitch nearly choked on his donut. Come again? Lana and I are done. Filed papers, changed locks, the whole 9 yards. Jesus, Trent, what happened? I mean, I know things were rough, but... She was cheating. Has been for months. Also told me that taking care of Violet wasn't her responsibility. Mitch's face went dark. He'd known Violet since she was 8, had been at Sarah's funeral, had watched me try to rebuild our lives piece by piece. She said that about Vi? Among other things. Called her baggage. Said she wanted a fresh start without the kid. I always knew there was something off about that woman. Too perfect, you know? Like she was acting all the time. Yeah, well, the act's over now. My phone rang, Jim's name on the caller ID. Trent, we need to talk. Can you come by my office around lunch? Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. Good news is, Lana's lawyer is already trying to settle. Bad news is, she's claiming you abused her financially. I laughed. Financial abuse? I gave her access to everything. She spent more on her hair in 6 months than I spend on groceries in a year. That's what I told him. Also mentioned the adultery evidence and the child abandonment documentation. He got quiet real fast. How quiet? Quiet enough that I think this is going to be over faster than we thought. Can you be here at noon? After I hung up, I found Mitch standing in my doorway with 2 cups of coffee and a concerned expression. You okay, man? Really okay? I'm better than okay. I'm free. And Vi? How's she handling it? She made me promise to take her dress shopping for the spring dance. I think she's handling it just fine. Mitch grinned. Dress shopping? You sure you're ready for that level of responsibility? Bring it on. After dealing with Lana's drama for 3 years, how hard can it be to shop for a 13-year-old's dress? Famous last words. The rest of the morning flew by. I had 3 inspections scheduled, a new restaurant, a small office building, and a residential remodel. Routine stuff that usually felt like drudgery, but today felt like meditation. There was something soothing about checking electrical panels and fire exits, about making sure everything was up to code and safe. It was honest work with clear standards and measurable results. Unlike marriage, apparently. At 11:30, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. This is ridiculous. L. I deleted it without responding. 2 minutes later, another text. I know you're getting my messages. Don't be childish. Deleted. Then, fine. Be that way. But this isn't over. I have rights. I screenshotted that one and forwarded it to Jim with a note. More evidence of harassment? His response was immediate. Perfect. Keep them coming. At noon, I walked into Jim's office feeling like a man who'd just discovered he'd been holding his keys the whole time he thought he was locked out. Trent, sit down. We need to discuss Lana's demands. I settled into the leather chair across from his desk. Jim Martinez had been my lawyer for 10 years, ever since Sarah's accident. He'd handled her estate, helped me navigate the insurance claims, and guided me through the process of becoming a single father. If anyone understood what was at stake here, it was Jim. "She wants the house," he said, without preamble. "She can want all she likes. Her name isn't on the deed. She's claiming she contributed to the household and deserves compensation. She contributed, all right. She contributed drama, debt, and adultery. How much compensation does that usually get you?" Jim smiled. "In this case, none. But she's also claiming you were financially controlling and that she needs spousal support to get back on her feet." "Jim, I gave her access to everything. She spent whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted. The only thing I controlled was making sure the mortgage got paid." "I know. And her spending records prove that. $73,000 in personal expenses in the last year alone. Clothes, salon visits, dinners, hotels." He paused meaningfully. "Hotels, Trent. 12 different charges for hotel rooms in the past 6 months. I felt my jaw tighten. While I was at work, while Violet was at school. Exactly. Her lawyer doesn't know about the hotel charges yet. I'm saving those for when he tries to paint her as the wronged wife. What about custody? That's what I really care about." Jim's expression softened. "That's where we hit the jackpot. Her text messages about Violet being baggage and not wanting to be a stepmother. That's abandonment, Trent. Clear and simple. Add in the affair and the financial irresponsibility, and there's no judge in the state who would give her custody or even unsupervised visitation. So Violet stays with me." "Violet stays with you. Full custody, no question." I felt something release in my chest that I hadn't even realized was tight. "What does Lana get?" "Her personal belongings, her car, which is in her name, and whatever's in her personal checking account. She signed a prenup, remember? She gets nothing from the house, nothing from your retirement, nothing from your investments." "She's going to fight this. Let her. She's got no grounds, no money to pay for a long legal battle, and a boyfriend who apparently dumped her the minute things got complicated. Her lawyer is already hinting that she might be willing to settle for a clean break if we don't pursue the adultery charges." "What adultery charges?" Jim grinned. "The ones I haven't filed yet but could. Adultery is still grounds for fault-based divorce in this state. If we go that route, she could end up owing you money." I sat back in my chair and tried to process the magnitude of what Jim was telling me. In less than 24 hours, I'd gone from being trapped in a miserable marriage to being completely free, with full custody of my daughter and no financial obligations to the woman who'd been bleeding me dry. "How long until it's final?" "If she signs the settlement agreement, 30 days. If she wants to fight it, 6 months, maybe longer. But she'll lose, and she'll end up with even less than we're offering now." "What are we offering now?" "Nothing. Clean break, she walks away. We don't pursue the adultery charges or the financial reimbursement for the money she spent on her affair." My phone buzzed. Another text from Lana. "Your lawyer is being unreasonable. I just want what's fair." I showed Jim the message. He chuckled. "What's fair is that she gets exactly what she brought to the marriage, which was nothing." Should I respond? God, no. Let her lawyer handle it. Every time she contacts you directly, it just proves she's unstable. I left Jim's office feeling like I was walking on air. The sun seemed brighter, the traffic seemed lighter, and for the first time in months, I was actually looking forward to going home. I stopped at the grocery store on the way and bought everything I needed to make Violet's favorite dinner: spaghetti and meatballs with garlic bread and a salad that didn't come from a bag. Real food, made with care, served with love. The kind of meal Lana would never make because it was too much work and too many carbs. While I was in the checkout line, my phone rang. Violet's school. "Mr. Calloway, this is Mrs. Peterson, the guidance counselor. I wanted to let you know that Violet seems much more engaged today. She's participating in class, smiling, interacting with her friends. I don't know what's changed at home, but whatever you're doing, keep it up." "Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. Things are definitely looking up." "I'm so glad to hear that. Violet is such a sweet girl. She deserves to be happy. Yes, she does, I thought as I loaded groceries into my car, and now she will be. That evening, Violet and I cooked dinner together. Really cooked, not just heated something up or ordered takeout. She told me about her day, about her friends, about the science project she was working on. She laughed at my terrible jokes and didn't flinch when my phone buzzed with notifications. "Aren't you going to check that?" she asked as we sat down to eat. "Nope. Whatever it is can wait. This is family time." She smiled. "I like family time." "Me too, kiddo, me too." Later, after Violet went to bed, I finally looked at my phone. 7 missed calls from Lana, 12 text messages, each one more desperate than the last. "Please call me back. We can work this out. I made a mistake. I love you. I love Violet. Don't do this to us. You're destroying our family. I'll do anything to fix this. Derek means nothing to me. Please, please, please." I deleted them all and blocked her number. Then I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my back porch, listening to the sounds of my neighborhood settling in for the night. Tomorrow, I'd take Violet dress shopping. This weekend, we'd go to the movies, just the two of us. Next week, I'd start looking into activities she might want to try. Maybe dance classes, but not at Lana's studio. Somewhere new, somewhere that was just for her. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Jim. "She signed the settlement. It's over, Trent. Congratulations." I raised my wine glass to the empty night sky. "Here's to new beginnings," I said out loud. From upstairs, I could hear Violet's music playing softly. She was probably doing homework or texting with friends, being a normal teenager in a home where she was wanted and loved and never ever considered a burden. The way it should have been all along. The way it would be from now on. 3 weeks later, I was beginning to understand what people meant when they talked about the calm after the storm. Violet and I had settled into a routine that felt natural in a way our family life never had when Lana was around. Breakfast together every morning, homework help in the evenings, weekend adventures that didn't require permission or negotiation or walking on eggshells. The divorce papers were signed. Lana had taken her settlement, which amounted to nothing more than her personal belongings and her car, and disappeared. I'd heard through the grapevine that she'd moved in with her sister in the next town over, but I didn't care enough to verify the information. What I cared about was the sound of Violet laughing at the breakfast table, the way she'd started bringing friends over after school, the fact that she'd signed up for 3 different activities at school without asking permission first, because she finally felt secure enough to make plans. But peace, I was learning, was a fragile thing. I was at my desk at the fire station, reviewing inspection reports, when Mitch stuck his head around the corner. "Hey, Trent, you've got visitors." Something in his tone made me look up. "What kind of visitors?" "The kind that look like they want to have words with you. 3 women, all dressed like they're going to a PTA meeting from hell." I followed Mitch to the front of the station where I found 3 women I recognized from around town. Sarah Chen, who ran the local dance studio where several of my neighbors' kids took classes. Jennifer Walsh, who organized most of the school fundraisers. And Rebecca Martinez, Jim's wife, which was particularly interesting. "Mr. Calloway," Sarah said, her voice carrying the kind of chill usually reserved for Arctic weather. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About what you did to Lana Merrick." I felt Mitch tense beside me. Behind the women, I could see several of my co-workers pretending to be busy while obviously listening to every word. "I'm sorry, but my divorce is a private matter. If you have concerns about a fire inspection or safety issue, I'm happy to help. Otherwise—" "Don't," Jennifer interrupted. "Don't pretend this is about fire safety. This is about how you treated a vulnerable woman." I blinked. Vulnerable? "Lana came to us," Rebecca said, and I noticed she couldn't quite meet my eyes. "She told us what really happened, how you emotionally abused her, controlled her finances, and threw her out with nothing. Is that what she told you?" "She told us the truth," Sarah snapped, "about how you isolated her from her friends, made her feel worthless, and then kicked her out the moment she tried to stand up for herself." I looked at Rebecca, Jim's wife, who had to know at least some of the real story. Rebecca, I think there might be some confusion here. Is there? Because Lana showed us the bank statements, showed us how you cut off all her access to money without warning, showed us the divorce papers where you left her with nothing. She showed you bank statements? Don't try to deny it, Jennifer said. We've seen the evidence. I pulled out my phone and called Jim. Jim, it's Trent. Can you come down to the station? We have a situation. While we waited for Jim, the three women continued their assault. They accused me of financial abuse, emotional manipulation, and abandoning my responsibilities as a husband. They talked about how Lana was struggling to rebuild her life, and how I should be ashamed of myself for destroying a woman who loved me. Mitch finally stepped forward. Ladies, I think you might want to hear the whole story before you— We don't need to hear his excuses, Sarah cut him off. We know what kind of man he is. Actually, said a familiar voice from behind them, I don't think you do. Jim walked into the station carrying a manila folder and wearing the expression he usually reserved for opposing counsel who'd just made a very stupid mistake. Rebecca, he said to his wife, what are you doing here? Supporting a friend who was abused by her husband. Jim opened his folder and pulled out a stack of papers. You mean supporting a friend who committed adultery, abandoned her parental responsibilities, and spent $73,000 of her husband's money on an affair? The silence that followed was deafening. That's not— Lana said— Rebecca stammered. Lana said a lot of things, most of them lies. Jim spread the papers out on the counter. Bank records showing hotel charges for her affair. Screenshots of text messages where she called Trent's daughter baggage and said she wanted a fresh start without the kid. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts to her boyfriend during work hours. Sarah picked up one of the bank statements. Her face went pale as she scanned the charges. She spent $800 at a spa in one day, she whispered. While her stepdaughter was eating pizza rolls for dinner because Lana refused to cook for her, I said quietly. Because taking care of Violet wasn't her responsibility. Jennifer was staring at the text message screenshots. She really called a 13-year-old girl baggage? Among other things, she also told her boyfriend that she couldn't wait to get rid of the dead weight so they could start their new life together. Rebecca looked like she was going to be sick. Jim, I didn't know. She said what cheaters always say when they get caught, that it was everyone else's fault, that she was the victim, that her husband was controlling and abusive. Jim gathered up the papers. The truth is, Trent gave her access to everything. She spent whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted. The only thing he controlled was making sure his daughter had a home to come back to. Where is Lana now? Sarah asked quietly. Living with her sister, last I heard. Her boyfriend dumped her the minute she lost access to Trent's credit cards. Funny how that works. The three women stood there in stunned silence, processing the gap between what they'd believed and what was actually true. She seemed so broken, Jennifer finally said. So hurt. I'm sure she was hurt, I said. Getting caught usually hurts. Losing your meal ticket usually hurts. Having your boyfriend dump you when you can't pay for fancy hotels anymore definitely hurts. But that doesn't make her the victim here. We owe you an apology, Rebecca said, tears in her eyes. A huge apology. You don't owe me anything. You were trying to help someone you thought was in trouble. That's admirable, even if you were wrong about who needed help. What can we do? Sarah asked. How can we make this right? You can remember this the next time someone tells you a story that sounds too convenient. You can remember that there are usually two sides to every divorce, and the person doing the most talking isn't always the person telling the truth. After they left, Mitch and I stood in the empty station lobby, surrounded by the echoes of accusations and apologies. Well, that was fun, Mitch said. Just another day in paradise. You okay? I thought about it. A month ago, having three women show up at my workplace to accuse me of abuse would have devastated me. I would have spent weeks wondering if other people believed the same things, wondering if I really was the villain in my own story. Now I just felt tired. I'm fine. It's just, I keep thinking it's over, you know? The divorce is final, Lana's gone, Violet and I are doing great. And then something like this happens, and I remember that some fires keep smoldering even after you think you've put them out. She's desperate, Mitch said. Desperate people do stupid things. Yeah, well, her desperation isn't my problem anymore. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't entirely true. Lana's desperation had already become my problem once today. How many other people had she talked to? How many other versions of events had she shared? How long would I be dealing with the aftermath of her lies? That evening, I was helping Violet with her algebra homework when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was local. Hello? Is this Trent Calloway? The voice was male, unfamiliar, and hostile. Who's asking? This is Derek Hunt. I think we need to talk. I felt Violet tense beside me. She couldn't hear the voice on the phone, but she could read my expression. I don't think we have anything to discuss, I said calmly. Oh, we do. See, Lana told me what you did to her, how you threw her out with nothing, how you turned her friends against her, how you're trying to destroy her life. Lana told you a lot of things, apparently. Most of them lies. She's not a liar. She's a good woman who made one mistake, and you're making her pay for it like some kind of psychopath. I walked into the kitchen, away from Violet. Derek, let me ask you something. If she's such a good woman, why did you dump her the minute she lost access to my credit cards? Silence. That's what I thought. You wanted her when she could pay for hotel rooms and expensive dinners. The minute she couldn't fund your affair anymore, you disappeared. So don't call me and lecture me about destroying her life. You helped her destroy it herself. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're both selfish, immature people who thought you could have your cake and eat it too. You thought you could carry on your affair indefinitely while I paid for it. You thought I'd never find out, or that if I did, I'd just roll over and take it. Well, surprise, I didn't. She loves me. She loves your attention. She loves feeling wanted. She loves the drama and excitement of sneaking around. But love, real love, involves sacrifice and commitment and putting other people's needs before your own sometimes. Lana doesn't know what that means. You're wrong about her. Then prove it. Marry her. Support her. Help her rebuild her life. Oh, wait, you can't do that because you're already married, aren't you? Another silence. That's right, Derek. I know about your wife. I know about your kids. I know about the divorce proceedings that started 6 months ago. So you're not exactly in a position to lecture anyone about commitment or destroying families. This isn't over, he said, but his voice had lost most of its bluster. Yes, it is. Don't call me again. Don't contact my daughter. Don't show up at my workplace or my home. If you do, I'll file harassment charges against both you and Lana. Are we clear? I hung up without waiting for an answer. Violet was standing in the kitchen doorway, her algebra book clutched against her chest. Was that him? She asked quietly. Her boyfriend? Ex-boyfriend, apparently. And yes. What did he want? I sat down at the kitchen table and rubbed my temples. He wanted to blame me for the mess they made of their own lives. Violet sat down across from me. Dad? Are you okay? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a quiet, anxious kid who tiptoed around her own home. Now she was confident enough to ask direct questions and strong enough to handle direct answers. I'm tired, Vi. Tired of dealing with people who can't take responsibility for their own choices. Tired of having to defend myself for refusing to be a doormat. But okay? Yeah, I'm okay. We're okay. Good, because I have a math test tomorrow and I really need help with these word problems. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time all day. Word problems, huh? Let's see what you've got. As we worked through her homework, I found myself thinking about the difference between drama and peace. For 3 years, I'd lived with constant drama. Every day brought a new crisis, a new argument, a new reason why I wasn't good enough or doing enough or being enough. Now I had peace, real peace, built on honesty and mutual respect and love without conditions. It was worth fighting for. It was worth defending. And if Lana and Derek and anyone else who wanted to blame me for their problems couldn't understand that, it wasn't my job to educate them. My job was to protect what mattered, my daughter, my home, and the life we were building together. Everything else was just noise. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I thought we were finally in the clear. Violet was thriving. Her grades were up. She'd made the honor roll, and she'd been elected to student council. She had friends over regularly, participated in school activities, and had even started talking about trying out for the soccer team in the fall. Life felt normal, stable, happy. I should have known it was too good to last. It was a Saturday morning in late spring. Violet and I were at the farmer's market, picking out vegetables for the week and enjoying the kind of easy companionship that had become our new normal. She was debating between 2 different types of tomatoes when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Well, well, look what the cat dragged in. I turned to find Serena Walsh, Lana's former best friend, standing behind me with her arms crossed and an expression that could have curdled milk. Serena, I said neutrally, how are you? How am I? How am I? I'm disgusted, that's how I am. Disgusted by what you did to Lana. Violet moved closer to me, her hand finding mine. She'd never liked Serena, even when Lana was around. Too fake, she'd told me once, like she's always acting in a play but forgot to tell everyone else what the play is about. I'm not sure what you mean, I said. Don't play dumb, Trent. I know what really happened. I know how you manipulated the whole situation to make Lana look bad. A small crowd was starting to gather, drawn by Serena's raised voice and aggressive posture. This was exactly the kind of public scene I'd been hoping to avoid. Serena? This isn't the place. No, this is exactly the place. People should know what kind of man you really are. What kind of father raises a daughter to be so selfish that she can't even share her father with another woman? I felt Violet's hand tighten in mine. She was 13 years old, standing in a public market being attacked by an adult woman, and I could see the hurt and confusion in her eyes. That's when my patience ran out. That's enough, I said, my voice carrying the authority I'd learned in 15 years of emergency response. You want to have a problem with me? Fine, but you don't get to attack my daughter. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm telling the truth. Lana loved you. She tried so hard to make that marriage work, but you and your precious princess couldn't stand sharing the spotlight. The truth? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about the truth? Let's talk about it. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder where I'd saved screenshots of Lana's text messages. Let's talk about how Lana called my daughter baggage and dead weight. Let's talk about how she refused to cook for a 13-year-old child because it wasn't her responsibility. Let's talk about the $73,000 she spent on her affair while claiming she couldn't afford groceries. Serena's face went pale, but she pressed on. Those messages were taken out of context. Lana was frustrated. Let's talk about the hotel receipts, I continued. 12 different hotels in 6 months, all paid for with my credit cards while she was supposedly at work or visiting friends. Let's talk about how she told her boyfriend she couldn't wait to get rid of the burden of being a stepmother. The crowd around us had grown larger. I recognized several faces, neighbors, parents from Violet's school, people I'd done inspections for. They were listening to every word. You don't understand, Serena said desperately. Lana was unhappy. She felt trapped. She felt trapped? I stepped closer, and Serena actually backed up. My daughter felt trapped. Trapped in her own home, with a woman who resented her existence. Trapped walking on eggshells, wondering what she'd done wrong, trying to make herself smaller and quieter so maybe, just maybe, her stepmother would stop looking at her like she was a problem to be solved. That's not. Let's talk about the night Lana told me that cooking for Violet wasn't her responsibility, I said, my voice carrying across the market. The same night I discovered she'd been having an affair for 6 months. The same night she came home from her dance class with her hair messed up and her lipstick smudged, glowing with happiness because she'd been with another man while my daughter ate pizza rolls for dinner. Serena was crying now, but I wasn't done. Let's talk about how she begged me to take her back, promised she'd be a better stepmother, swore the affair meant nothing, right up until I cut off her credit cards. Funny how her love disappeared the minute her shopping sprees ended. She made mistakes. She made choices. She chose to have an affair. She chose to neglect my daughter. She chose to spend my money funding her betrayal. And when she got caught, she chose to play the victim instead of taking responsibility. I looked around at the crowd that had gathered. You want to know what kind of father I am? I'm the kind who puts his daughter first, always. I'm the kind who won't let anyone, not my wife, not her friends, not anyone, make my child feel unwanted in her own home. I turned back to Serena. And you want to know what kind of friend you are? You're the kind who enables destructive behavior, the kind who makes excuses for inexcusable actions, the kind who attacks a 13-year-old girl in public to defend a woman who called that same girl baggage. Serena was sobbing openly now. You don't understand what she's going through. She has nothing, no money, no job, nowhere to go. She has exactly what she earned, nothing, and that's not my problem anymore. How can you be so cold? Cold? You think I'm cold? I laughed again, and this time there was something sharp in it. I supported her for 3 years. I gave her access to everything I had. I welcomed her into my home, into my family, into my life. I tried to make her happy, tried to give her everything she said she wanted. I paused, looking around at the faces watching us. But the one thing I wouldn't give her was permission to treat my daughter like garbage. The one thing I wouldn't do was sacrifice my child's well-being for my wife's convenience. And when she realized that Violet would always come first, she decided to find someone who would put her first instead. She found that, Serena said quietly. Derek loved her. Derek dumped her the minute she couldn't pay for hotel rooms anymore. That's not love, Serena. That's prostitution with extra steps. The crowd gasped. Serena's face went white with rage. How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Call it what it was? She traded intimacy for financial support, and when the financial support ended, so did the relationship. If you want to call that love, that's your choice. But don't expect me to pretend it was anything noble. Serena looked around at the crowd, seeming to realize for the first time how many people were listening. Her voice dropped to a whisper. She's broken, Trent. Completely broken. She can't eat, can't sleep, can't function. She talks about you constantly, about how much she misses her family. We were never her family. We were her meal ticket. And the minute she found a better offer, she was ready to trade us in. That's not true. Then where is she now? If we meant so much to her, if she's so broken up about losing us, where is she? Why isn't she here, fighting for her marriage? Why isn't she trying to make amends to Violet? Why isn't she doing anything except sending her friends to attack us in public? Serena had no answer for that. I'll tell you where she is, I continued. She's somewhere feeling sorry for herself, telling anyone who will listen that she's the victim, that I'm the villain, that none of this is her fault. She's doing exactly what she's always done, taking no responsibility and expecting other people to clean up her mess. I looked around at the crowd one more time. For 3 years, I tried to make a marriage work with a woman who didn't want to be married. She wanted the benefits, the financial security, the nice house, the social status, but not the responsibilities, not the commitment, not the hard work of building a life with someone. I squeezed Violet's hand. And definitely not the reality of being part of a family that included a teenage girl who needed love and stability and support. She tried, Serena started. She tried nothing. She showed up when it was convenient and disappeared when it wasn't. She played the part when people were watching and dropped the act the minute she thought no one would notice. But someone was always watching, Serena. My daughter was always watching. I turned to Violet, who had been silent through the entire confrontation. Vi, do you have anything you want to say to Mrs. Walsh? Violet looked up at Serena with the kind of steady, clear gaze that only children can manage when they've been pushed too far. Lana was never my stepmother, she said quietly. She was just a woman who lived in our house and made my dad sad. I'm glad she's gone. I'm glad we don't have to pretend anymore that we were a happy family when we weren't. She paused, then added, and I think you should stop trying to make my dad feel bad for protecting me. That's what good fathers do. The silence that followed was deafening. Serena stared at Violet like she'd been slapped. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware that they'd been watching a very private family drama play out in public. Finally, Serena found her voice. I'm sorry, she whispered. I thought. You thought what Lana told you to think, I said. Just like she trained you to think for 3 years. Just like she trained everyone to think. But the truth has a way of coming out eventually. Serena nodded, tears streaming down her face. What should I tell her? Tell her the truth. Tell her that her actions have consequences. Tell her that she can't destroy a family and then expect sympathy when people refuse to pretend it didn't happen. I paused, then added more gently, and tell her that if she really wants to move on with her life, she needs to stop trying to rewrite history. She needs to accept responsibility for her choices and figure out how to build something new instead of trying to tear down what she left behind. Serena nodded again and walked away without another word. The crowd began to disperse, people returning to their shopping with the awkward energy that follows unexpected drama. A few neighbors nodded at me sympathetically. One of the vendors, a woman whose daughter was in Violet's class, gave me a thumbs up. Dad, Violet said quietly. Can we go home now? Yeah, kiddo, we can go home. As we walked to the car, Violet slipped her hand into mine. Are you okay? I'm perfect. Are you okay? I'm proud of you, she said, for standing up for me, for telling the truth. I'll always stand up for you, Vi. Always. I know. That's why I'm not scared anymore. Scared of what? Scared that someone's going to try to break up our family again, because now I know you won't let them. That evening, after Violet had gone to bed, I sat on my back porch with a beer and my phone. I had 17 missed calls from various numbers, 12 voicemails, and 43 text messages. Most of them were from people who'd been at the market, offering support or asking for details. A few were from Lana's other friends, demanding explanations or hurling accusations. One was from Derek, threatening legal action for defamation. I deleted them all without responding. The last message was from Jim. Heard about the farmer's market. You okay? I called him back. Jim, it's Trent. Yeah, I'm okay. It was bound to happen eventually. What's the story? I told him about the confrontation with Serena, about the crowd that gathered, about everything I'd said. Jesus, Trent, you basically gave a public deposition. I gave a public statement of facts. Everything I said was true and provable. I know. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about Lana's reaction when she hears about it. What's she going to do? She's already tried turning my friends against me, tried getting me in trouble at work, tried painting herself as the victim. What's left? Desperate people do desperate things. Jim, it's over. The divorce is final. She signed the settlement. She's out of our lives. There's nothing left for her to do except move on. I hope you're right. I am right. She's got no money, no leverage, and no credibility. Today proved that. When push came to shove and she had to rely on other people to fight her battles, they couldn't even do that effectively. Just be careful, okay? And if anything weird happens, call me immediately. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about the confrontation at the market. I'd been angrier than I'd realized, more hurt than I'd admitted, more protective than I'd known I could be. But I didn't regret any of it. Every word I'd said was true. Every accusation I'd made was backed up by evidence. Every defense I'd mounted was necessary. Lana had made her choices. She'd chosen the affair, chosen the lies, chosen the betrayal. She'd chosen to treat my daughter like an inconvenience, and my marriage like a business transaction. Now she was living with the consequences of those choices, and that wasn't my fault or my problem. My only job now was to protect what mattered: Violet, our home, our future. Everything else was just noise. But as I sat there in the dark, I couldn't shake Jim's words. Desperate people do desperate things. I just hoped Lana wasn't desperate enough to do something truly stupid, because if she was going to discover that I could be just as ruthless in defense as she had been in attack. And this time, I wouldn't be pulling any punches. I should have listened to Jim's warning about desperate people. I should have known that publicly humiliating Lana at the farmer's market would provoke some kind of retaliation. I should have been prepared for what came next. But I wasn't. It was a Tuesday evening, 3 weeks after the confrontation with Serena. Violet and I were having dinner, grilled chicken and vegetables that we'd cooked together, the kind of simple, healthy meal that had become our routine, when the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," Violet said, jumping up from the table. "No, let me." Something in my gut told me this wasn't going to be a friendly neighbor or a delivery driver. I was right. Through the peephole, I could see 2 police officers standing on my front porch. Behind them, barely visible in the shadows, was a familiar figure: Lana. I opened the door, keeping the chain latch engaged. "Officers, what can I do for you?" "Mr. Calloway? I'm Officer Johnson. This is Officer Martinez. We need to speak with you about a complaint that's been filed." "What kind of complaint?" "May we come in?" I glanced back at Violet, who was standing in the kitchen doorway with a worried expression. "Actually, let's step outside. My daughter's doing homework." I grabbed my jacket and stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me. Lana emerged from the shadows, and I got my first good look at her in months. She looked terrible. She'd lost weight, too much weight, and her hair was limp and unwashed. Her clothes were wrinkled, her makeup was smeared, and her eyes had the wild, unfocused look of someone who hadn't slept in days. "Hello, Trent," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Lana." I turned to the officers. "What's this about?" Officer Johnson consulted his notepad. "Ms. Merrick has filed a complaint alleging harassment, stalking, and financial abuse. She claims you've been following her, threatening her, and preventing her from accessing marital assets." I blinked. "I'm sorry. What?" "She says you've been driving by her residence, calling her workplace, and sending threatening messages through third parties." "That's completely false. I haven't had any contact with her since the divorce was finalized 3 months ago." "What about the incident at the farmer's market 3 weeks ago?" Officer Martinez asked. "That wasn't me contacting her. Her friend Serena approached me and started making accusations. I defended myself and my daughter." "By publicly humiliating me," Lana said, speaking up for the first time. "By telling lies about our marriage to anyone who would listen." "They weren't lies, Lana. They were facts. Documented, provable facts." Officer Johnson held up a hand. "Let's stick to the current allegations. Ms. Merrick, you claim Mr. Calloway has been stalking you?" Lana nodded eagerly. "He drives by my sister's house where I'm staying. He calls the dance studio where I work and asks questions about my schedule. He sends people to check up on me." "That's completely untrue," I said. "I don't even know where her sister lives, and I haven't called any dance studio." "Can you prove that?" Officer Martinez asked. I pulled out my phone. "Here's my call log for the past month. You won't find any calls to dance studios or to anyone associated with Lana. Here's my GPS history. I go to work, I go to my daughter's school, I go to the grocery store. That's it." The officers examined my phone while Lana shifted nervously beside them. "What about the financial abuse?" Officer Johnson asked. "What financial abuse?" "She says you've frozen her out of joint accounts and left her destitute." I almost laughed. "We've been divorced for 3 months. There are no joint accounts. The divorce settlement gave her everything she was entitled to, which was her personal belongings and her car." "I had a right to half of everything," Lana said, her voice rising. "The house, the savings, the retirement accounts." "You signed a prenup," I said calmly. "You waived all rights to marital property in exchange for protection from your debts. My lawyer has copies of everything." Officer Martinez looked confused. "Ms. Merrick, you didn't mention a prenuptial agreement." "It was signed under duress," Lana said quickly. "He forced me to sign it." "The prenup was signed 6 months before our wedding," I said. "You had your own lawyer review it. You had plenty of time to negotiate or refuse." "This is getting complicated," Officer Johnson said. "Ms. Merrick, do you have documentation of these alleged threats or instances of stalking?" Lana fumbled in her purse and pulled out her phone. "He sends people to threaten me. His friends, his co-workers, they all know where to find me." "I haven't sent anyone anywhere," I said. "I don't even think about you anymore, Lana. I've moved on." "That's not true," she screamed, her composure finally cracking completely. "You destroyed my life. You turned everyone against me. You made sure I'd have nothing. You destroyed your own life when you decided to have an affair." "That's enough," Officer Martinez said. "Ms. Merrick, we're going to need more than accusations. Do you have any physical evidence of stalking or harassment?" Lana stared at him like he'd asked her to solve calculus. "Evidence?" "Photos of him following you. Screenshots of threatening messages. Witness statements from people who saw him near your residence." He's very clever about it. He makes sure there's no evidence." The officers exchanged a look that I recognized from my years in emergency services. It was the look that said, "We've got a problem here, but it's not the problem we were called about." "Mr. Calloway," Officer Johnson said, "we're going to need you to stay away from Ms. Merrick and her residence." "I don't know where her residence is, and I have no desire to go there." "Just to be safe. No contact, no driving by, no sending intermediaries." "Done. Can I ask you to tell her the same thing? Because this is the first time I've seen her since the divorce, but it's not the first time she's tried to cause problems for me." "What do you mean?" I told them about Serena's attack at the farmer's market, about the group of women who'd come to my workplace, about Derek's threatening phone call. "You're saying she's been sending people to harass you?" Officer Martinez asked. "I'm saying she's been telling people a version of events that isn't true, and some of them have acted on that information." "He's lying," Lana said, but her voice lacked conviction. "He's trying to make me look crazy." "Ma'am," Officer Johnson said gently, "have you been receiving any kind of counseling or mental health support?" "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you look like you haven't slept or eaten in weeks. It means you're making serious accusations without evidence. It means you might benefit from talking to someone." Lana's face crumpled. "I don't need counseling. I need my life back. I need my husband back. You need to accept that it's over," I said quietly. "Lana, we're divorced. We have been for 3 months. I'm not your husband anymore. This isn't your home anymore. You need to move on." "I can't," she whispered. "I have nothing without you. No money, no friends, no future. Derek won't even return my calls. That's not my fault." "It is your fault. You made sure everyone would hate me. You poisoned them against me." "I told them the truth. That's all I did." Officer Martinez stepped between us. "All right, that's enough. Ms. Merrick, we're going to give you a ride back to your sister's house. Mr. Calloway, remember what we said about no contact." "Wait," Lana said suddenly. "I want to see Violet. I want to say goodbye to her." "Absolutely not. She was my stepdaughter for 3 years. I have a right." "You have no rights here," I said firmly. You abandoned any claim to a relationship with my daughter when you called her baggage and said you couldn't wait to get rid of her. I never said that. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshot folder. Officer Johnson, would you like to see the text messages where she said exactly that? Lana lunged for my phone. Delete those. You have no right to keep those. Officer Martinez caught her arm. Ma'am, calm down. Those messages are private. They were sent to a third party using devices and accounts that I paid for, I said. They're evidence in a divorce proceeding. They're perfectly legal to keep. Ms. Merrick, Officer Johnson said, we really need to get you out of here. This isn't helping anyone. I just want to see her, Lana sobbed. I just want to explain. Explain what? That you didn't mean it when you said she ruined your life? That you didn't mean it when you said you wanted a fresh start without the kid? That you didn't mean it when you refused to cook for her because it wasn't your responsibility? Lana stared at me with tears streaming down her face. I was angry. I was confused. I made mistakes. You made choices. And now you're living with the consequences of those choices. Please, Trent. Please, I'll do anything. I'll be better. I'll be the wife you wanted, the stepmother Violet deserved. Just give me another chance. For a moment, just a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. She looked so broken, so desperate, so utterly lost. Then I remembered the sound of Violet crying in her room after another dinner where Lana had ignored her. I remembered the careful way my daughter had started moving through our house, trying to make herself invisible. I remembered the relief in Violet's eyes when Lana finally left. No, I said simply. It's too late for that. It's not too late. It's never too late. It is for us. Officer, please get her out of here. As the police car pulled away with Lana in the back seat, I stood on my porch for a long time, processing what had just happened. She'd looked so desperate, so completely defeated. Part of me wondered if I was being too harsh, too unforgiving. Then I went inside and found Violet sitting at the kitchen table, her homework forgotten, her face pale with worry. Is she gone? She asked quietly. She's gone. Is she coming back? Not if I can help it. Violet nodded, but I could see the fear in her eyes. Dad? What if she doesn't give up? What if she keeps trying? I sat down beside her and took her hands in mine. Then we'll deal with it. Together. But Vi, I need you to understand something. No matter what happens, no matter what she says or does or tries to convince people of, you are safe. This is your home. I am your father. And nobody is going to change that. Promise? I promise. That night, after Violet went to bed, I called Jim and told him about the police visit. She's completely lost it, he said after I finished the story. Stalking accusations with no evidence, financial abuse claims when there's a signed settlement agreement, demanding to see a child she abandoned. This is textbook desperate behavior. What do I do? Document everything. Keep records of all contact. If she shows up again, call the police immediately. And Trent, you might want to consider a restraining order. Based on what? She hasn't actually threatened me. Based on the pattern of harassment, the false accusations, the unwanted contact, the refusal to accept that the relationship is over, a judge would see this as escalating behavior. I thought about Lana's face when she'd lunged for my phone, about the wild look in her eyes when she'd screamed that I'd destroyed her life. Yeah, I said. Let's do it. The restraining order was filed the next morning. By afternoon, Lana had been served with papers ordering her to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, my workplace, and my daughter.